Chapter 107. Embellish. It was amazing how the government and their media allies embellished their figures to enhance the charges and the profile of a case. They would allege that you made $30,000 a week. That was to inflame potential jurors who comprised of civilians making $30,000 a year. If you bought an ounce of coke for $1,000, right? Broke it down and made 120 rocks, that's $2,000. You doubled your money, right? But according to the government calculations, you may have made 10,000. But in reality, you spent 1,000, made 2,000, so you really only made 1,000 in profit. Their calculations weren't based on reality, but on making the average story Hollywood worthy and also to strike emotions to get a conviction. They make the jury thinking you making millions when you only made a couple thousand. So men who may have only bought 1 ounce of coke every 2 weeks for years were being calculated as millionaires, when in reality, the $1,000 profit that they made was usually all they had to their names. The profit was used for normal bills like everyone else, and the initial investment was reinvested to make the same small profit to pay more bills. They were caught up in the matrix like everyone else. Hustling was just like any other profession where you had some who would become innovative and turn their situation into paradise, but most was just surviving. Most was just punching the clock to pay the bills. They didn't have $1 million in a closet or 50 keys on the street. They went to work selling narcotics just like other people went to work selling insurance or vehicles. Only difference was their chosen profession was considered illegal by the same government that considered other addictive drugs like cigarettes, liquor, or some over-the-counter drugs as legal. The label illegal had nothing to do with morals or the potential harm from the narcotic. The label illegal was all based on politics. Chapter 108. Rico. After seeing it was no white paint left on my cell wall in the hole because of my art, and seeing stacks of papers of screenplays that I was trying to write, the deputy warden decided, after 6 months in the hole on special handling / permanent lockdown status, to let me back into population. They placed me in the cell with a homie from my block. I was immediately handed an 8-inch mini sword. Right after count time, we came out to watch the breaking news. They were arresting 14 members of the 1st and Kennedy Street crew for conspiracy and racketeering, as I expected. We were looking at our homies being placed into paddy wagons live on the news. The FBI had blocked off Kennedy and the parallel street Longfellow and raided 6 homes on that one block, arresting 8 people. They were arresting people in Maryland, Virginia, Alabama, Georgia, and North Carolina, along with DC. Everybody was being charged with drug trafficking, weapons, murders, kidnappings, robberies. Some people in the southern states were saved by a hurricane that almost wiped their town off of the map. The FBI went to raid houses that were only piles of rubble after the storm. The homie that I was in the cell with had a brother look just like him, like I did. And they flashed our brothers' faces on the TV. Wanted. Everybody in the TV room turned and looked at us. We were looking at our brothers' faces on the news, but it was like looking at ourselves. The people in the TV room thought they were looking at us. We both wondered, would either one of us be on the 53-count indictment? In the morning, while everyone else slept, I thought about the hypocrisy of this two-sided government. 3 cops were killed by a lone gunman. yet over 20 people were being charged. Yet 4 months prior, a day before Adolf Hitler's birthday, Timothy McVeigh planted a bomb at a government building in Oklahoma City, killing 168 people, including 19 children, and wounding over 800 people. 8 of them were law enforcement and 1 local sheriff. Yet he only had 1 co-defendant. Not 20, not 25, not 30. 1. He only had 1 co-defendant. They didn't raid everyone's homes that he was affiliated with and charge them with racketeering. They didn't even interrogate them.
Wow. Holy cow. About a third of the building has been blown away. And you can see just smoke and debris and fire on the ground, downtown on the ground. This is just devastating.
While pondering at 4:30 in the morning, the cell bar shook back and forth, shaking me out of my thoughts. It shook again and again and again. The officer in the bubble was indicating to us that someone in this cell had to go to court. My cellie woke up and said, "That's for you." Shit, I hope not. We both laughed at something we knew wasn't funny. I put on my boots and walked out onto the dark and quiet tier towards the bubble to find out if it was both of us or just one of us. I was expecting to be the one that had new charges, though I knew it would be weak. But just the fact that I was affiliated with Lee's would be enough for a conviction. So they thought. I walked up the steps to the bubble where the officer stayed and asked, "They got me going to court?" The lady looked up and said, "No, it's your cellmate. Tell him to get dressed." I returned back to the cell and the homie was already dressed in his orange jumpsuit and sitting on a stool. "I heard her," he said, and then walked out of the cell. I watched him walk towards the front of the cell block with his shoulders slumped over while I thought to myself that they would probably be back to get me. That whole day, every channel was playing the breaking news of the arrest of the infamous 1st and Kennedy Street crew. The homie came back from court later that evening with a 53-count indictment in his hand. He threw the thick stack of papers on the bed beside me and said, "This is some bullshit." I picked it up and read it. It was definitely some bullshit. It was obviously a rush job. A quick emotional fix for the ones seeking some sort of revenge for Benny's actions. Somebody has to be blamed for this response. I was an unindicted co-conspirator because of the lack of substantial evidence to indict me on witness intimidation and drug trafficking. It was all based on hearsay statements made by the same rat, Earl E. Johnson, who told the FBI he overheard me saying that I would kill anyone who tried to testify against the homies. The homie wasn't taking it too hard though. He was already facing 10 years for his initial case that he was locked up on. But with this new indictment, he was facing an additional 30. He was also on his 3rd strike. His 2nd strike was assisting Yuck's escape from Lawton. He said he would fight it. He had no choice. Chapter 111. Ham Sandwich. In the judicial system, they have a slogan that says, "You can indict a ham sandwich." It means it doesn't take much evidence to get an indictment. You can indict a ham sandwich. Reason: the government gets to present its case to a secretive jury composing of 16 to 23 people. They are called the grand jury. Only 12 of them is needed to agree that an indictment is warranted. The kicker to this is, they have police and witnesses testifying against you, but you are not allowed to be present or have an attorney to defend you. No defense is allowed in a grand jury. So the government is telling 23 people of your supposed misdoings with no defense attorney there to refute it. The standard for the indictment is only probable cause to believe the defendant committed a crime, as opposed to a trial where the government would need to prove beyond reasonable doubt that a crime was committed just to get a guilty verdict. Technically, anyone could become a ham sandwich. Anyone could be indicted. Even with this extremely low bar to acquire an indictment, I still wasn't indicted. They still couldn't present enough evidence to indict this ham sandwich. My gut instincts were correct to separate from the potential rats. Energy doesn't lie. I was partially in tune with my vibrations, my decisive intuition, my federal experiences, my wisdom-based decisions once I accepted the packages from the Colombians, my thinking 2 steps ahead, my chess-playing thoughts.